Welcome back to the shop. I have a preponderance of extension cord outlet reels in my shop. I really love these things. I restored this one. This was in my grandfather's shop. It works well. And I've got some of these little cheesy, probably 14 gauge outlets. And this one was giving me some grief the other day. I assumed it was the contacts. So I took it down and it's not the contacts. I got a problem with the plug. Let me show you what's going on. So I've got a hot glue gun here with the light on it. You can see when I wiggle this around, it'll make connection, and that is not ideal. I don't want that, whatever's going on there, generating heat. So we're going to go ahead and replace that plug, and we'll take a look at it afterwards and see if we can't figure out what's going on with it. Now, what they've got in here is a push style outlet. These are not ideal. If you come in here with a small screwdriver and well, that's not working. I have enough wire to work with, so I'm not too worried about it. We can strip that back, still have plenty of room. Now, the way they had that wired in the back with the speed connection was not ideal. I'll show you on the bench here in a second, but what I'm going to do now is, because I only have two terminals, this is a commercial grade plug, I'm going to use these connectors here to make a pigtail that I can wire up to this. That'll be a superior connection according to what I've seen. Now, this probably might be controversial, but I like to wrap the outlet with electrical tape. I don't know what that ground wire is doing when I shove everything up there. And if it were to get contacted by something, if it were to touch the hot side, we'd get a dead short. If anybody's watched this channel for any length of time, you know that I'm not an electrician. I know enough to change an outlet, I think, but I'll probably still get some comments in the some critical comments as to what I did. But I'm pretty sure that the repair that I had done meets the NEC, the National Electric Code. And when I bought the house, I went ahead and changed some of the outlets. Outlets are sort of consumable items in my mind. They get worn out. You know, when you're plugging things in and out, they eventually, fatigue and need to be replaced. Everybody's got that one outlet that's got stuff dangling in it, and you squeeze the plugs together to try to get it to hold, and it just doesn't work. And the solution to that is not, bending in the ends of your extension cords. It's to put a new plug in. It makes life a lot easier. And then when you do buy plugs, you've got to be a little bit careful about what you're doing. And sometimes they're just too cheap. They are just so cheap. This is a regular consumer grade outlet that there's billions of these out and about. I think you buy them for a 12 pack or a 20 pack for $15. They're 50, 75 cents a piece. And that's even with the inflated prices. They are just dirt cheap. They're not overly complicated, and I'm not against things being cheap. However, sometimes, in the shop, I want things to be a little bit heavier duty, so I do not mind paying more for a better product, even though it's very hard to tell, where those differences are. The difference here between the gray outlet and the white outlet is that this is a commercial grade, self-grounding, whatever, just a normal outlet. But the commercial grade has a better design in that it's made out of a little bit tougher material. The contacts are slightly larger, and there's just a multitude of different things that make this a better plug. And you'd have to go to another channel. I'm not exactly sure who to go to, but you can see that. And then there's an upgrade from the commercial side, which is the hospital grade. And the hospital grade stuff is really through the roof expensive. It's nice, but you can see the difference. Let me get a micrometer and we'll make the difference between those connector plates. The difference between the two is not vast, I mean, in terms of the scale, but this is about 2 100ths of an inch, and then the commercial one is 3 100ths of an inch, and that's 50% larger in terms of the the mass of the contact space on here. And then this plug, this house was built in 1989. No doubt this was manufactured in 1988 or so, or before. And I was correct in my thinking that I should have been able to put a screwdriver in here and release these wires. However, this thing was so fatigued that it just cracked. And you can see that that's opening wide. So I decided to just cut it out at that point in time. What we can't see right as of yet is why the connection is bad in there. Let's take this to the bandsaw and see if we can't cut this in two and get a better look at what's happening inside and why this failed. One of my friends recently had surgery on his hand, and his surgeon said, "You're not having any fun unless you can see what you were doing." So he had a pretty decent sized scar, and I think some of that applies to, trying to diagnose what went wrong with stuff. Now that we've got it cut open, I'm not sure we can really see a whole lot here because we've got just the ground plug. We can see the wear and tear on that, and the relatively chinchy nature of this plug here. This is so thin, it is almost comical. So we can see that connection was just barely made up inside of there. Just hardly see anything was going on. Let's see if we can get the other side out. Here's the same outlet that we used initially, that hot glue gun. And you can see that this connection is just not being made up there. It falls off. It should have a nice purchase on there, and it does not. So this is the corresponding side where the garage door opener was plugged in. It has a slightly better makeup, but still just a horrible connection point. And it was just barely resting on there. There was no arcing that I could tell, but it is not nearly like this, the hot side. This is a real positive grabbing action. See, that's just never going to come off of there, as opposed to the other side. There's just nothing there at all. So that's it. The plug wore out. It was junk. The innards of it, they don't look that cheesy. I imagine in '89 things were built maybe better than they are these days. It's hard to tell, but this plug has definitely served its useful life, and And now we'll have a commercial grade plug and play. So hopefully that was interesting to somebody. Hopefully it helps, and hope you're having a good week. Thanks for watching.